Hello there, everyone, and welcome to What's the Tea with Gen X, Y, and Z. We are three generations, three perspectives, for one cup of truth. So get ready for a refreshing take on hot button topics because we're going to be brewing up a steaming hot take on today's most pressing issues, where we're going to dish on everything from social justice to pop culture with humor, honesty, and just a little bit of healthy debate. We're going to sip the tea, spill the honest truth, and then find common ground across the generational gap. This show is guaranteed to what?
Stir the pot.
Stir the pot. So, again, welcome you all. I am Dr. Melissa representing the X Factor.
That's it? No?
I like to mix it up.
Okay.
Sometimes I give you extra, sometimes I give you not.
Okay.
So they very explicit.
Today I'm being
today.
very basic like y'all.
Oh. And what's up, y'all? I am Amber holding it down for us millennials.
And hey, everyone, it's Zion, keeping it real for Gen Z.
We all were basic today. Amen.
Sometimes you need to be a little basic.
You guys are basic every week, right?
Sometimes you need to be basic. You don't always want to be flamboyant.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you just got to keep it simple. Sometimes you just got to put on
Have
a
you
white
ever-
tee and joggers.
Have you
That
ever
part.
done flamboyant?
Some nice fours. Be surprised. Be surprised.
Not on the show.
Be surprised.
See, you know what kills me?
I save all the energy for my witty comebacks. Not that.
I can't win. So you guys know when I come on here and I'm being extra, no pun intended.
Extraordinary.
Yes, they have something to say. Today I was like, let me just lead out and be very ordinary like they are. And they have something to say. So
Okay, I liked ordinary. Okay. You didn't call us basic and boring this time. Ordinary sounds a little better. Yeah, I can flow with that.
so the problem is, y'all, what you're hearing now is going to lead us into our topic today. There is an inherent lack
Inherent. Wow.
of respect
Inherent lack of
Well,
respect
at this
is crazy.
table.
Aretha Franklin said it too.
And she did. RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. RESPECT. Take care, TCB. Oh, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. No.
You don't know this song?
Oh, see?
Oh,
Oh,
I know the song. It ain't a song
Ooh.
to dance to for me.
Why is not?
suck it to me. That's a song.
What you doing?
A lot of people dance to that. I don't
Look
know what
like
you're
you
talking
taking
about.
the snow off a windshield or something, man.
Cover, man.
That's that
Ooh.
Z stuff right there.
Right.
See? That's
Oh
that
my
Z stuff.
goodness.
So yes, y'all, I blessed you with my wonderful vocals, because today we're going to talk about respect, and I'm going to tell you that's a big topic. If you want
It
to
is.
talk about a generational divide, I don't think we've had a topic in a long time that I believe really will show the differences in the generations.
I actually really agree with that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So today's about respect. So I'm going to open it up with this question. What does respect look like for you based on a generation?
That's a great question. I think respect for me is just a mutual understanding, where we have a mutual tone. We can see each other's perspective, even if you don't agree.
Okay.
Not saying that we have to be like-minded and you agree with everything I'm saying. No, definitely just taking into consideration my perspective of what I'm saying.
Okay.
Even if it's not something that you totally agree on, but I know you listening to what I'm saying. What else? Mutual. I don't know. I think everything just got to be mutual. Like,
Yeah.
one person shouldn't be high pitched, another person shouldn't be low pitched, or feel timid, or I shouldn't feel like I'm scared to have to think about the reply I'm gonna say. Like, it should be a level of comfortability. Shared.
Comfortability,
For sure.
mutuality, comfortability. Okay.
Yeah. Outside of
Okay.
that, without saying the word respect, I mean, because if somebody say what I command and demand, I'm always say respect.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But we got to be able to define it.
Absolutely.
Amen. Okay.
Right.
So I just to piggyback off of Amber a little bit, I would say a mutual understanding, but also mutual admiration. Because if we both admire each other, we're both going to value each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
So if I admire you, I'm not going to go behind and talk behind your back. If I admire you, I'm going to be able to recognize where you're at and be able to either uplift you or not put you down. Like it's a different The only thing I disagree with you is respect can exist when there's a difference of dynamics. So not everybody has to be on fair footing. Like you can be a superior and still respect your subordinate. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like, so respect has to just be, again, for me, a mutual admiration. Like, despite our skills or competencies may be different, or maybe our even personalities and beliefs may be different, I still admire whatever it is I admire about you, to which I'm not going to disrespect you. I'm not going to talk to you poorly. I won't talk bad about you. And I'll at least put in perspective and honor what you have to say because I admire you and I understand you.
Yeah.
So that's how I view it from a general standpoint, I would say.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking more so like workplace, definitely more on general terms. Like if I'm coming across a random individual and we having like a regular conversation, like I'm expecting mutuality across the board.
Yeah, for sure. Or a parental relationship, even your relationship with siblings. Like if you have elder siblings you look up to, you're going to value their opinion, but a lot of times, whether it's ageism or something else, you should also, if you're an older sibling, you should also respect your younger sibling enough to know that they might have insight on something, and we don't know everything. No, that wasn't a personal shot.
No, we might not want to talk about siblings.
I think that's just a.
Can I jump in?
That's just
First
a play.
of all,
for
I'm
sure.
going to ask somebody with a phone if you can just look up the definition for respect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we'll key that up so that we'll be ready to talk about that. It's interesting. I think it's so interesting when we talk about the generational perspective because respect is a big term that involves a lot of different things.
It is. Yeah.
So nothing you guys said was incorrect. We talked about mutual, our tone, our understanding. We talked about adoration. Like we use words like that.
Yeah.
If someone were to ask me that question as an Xer, and I'm going to say a lot of Xers out there, that might not have been the first place we would have landed. Respect would have been hierarchical.
Yeah.
Right? We would have, when we hear the word respect, it's not about adoration. It's not about mutuality and all of that. It's more about, there's a dynamic of respect, right? And that's, so what you offered wasn't incorrect. It's just interesting how your perspective went to this adoration, mutuality. We're the same, give and take and all of that. And for those of us in the older generation, respect meant something that you rendered to someone in a position of either authority or that position warranted that.
It's a little more animalistic. Packs. Like a pack of wolves.
Did he call us animals?
Dang.
Did he call?
I think it's an antiquated way of looking at things. Yeah, so it's a little.
Not you didn't. You didn't just took me back to the Teen Wolves when they had the pack of wolves and they had the leader.
There's alpha.
Yeah, the alpha.
And everybody submits to the alpha.
I'm gonna take my earrings.
They was fighting over me in the alpha too, though.
I'm gonna let him say that with his chest. Animalistic.
I'm gonna respect you enough not to repeat my sentence.
I'm gonna thank you for. Okay, so clearly, y'all, we are different. So let me tell you my thoughts on that. As an Xer, this is the problem I think with respect with the younger generation. I think that there's a lack of it, and I'm not being facetious. Let me tell you why.
I can agree with that. I was about to say,
there's this mentality of this mutuality.
Yeah.
There's this mentality of you don't deserve any more respect than I do, right? And from my perspective, no. There's some positions that have earned the right to get a different level of respect than maybe you do.
I agree.
Okay, so when we talk about, us with parenting, the way that we respected or was taught respect with our parents seems to be a little bit different than the modern parents. Right. It was really the role that garnered that respect. Right. You didn't have to agree. It didn't have to be mutual. It didn't have to be adoration. It was just the fact that this is your parent. By virtue of them giving birth to you and taking care of you, right, there was an inherent right or expectation that there would be not mutuality, not disrespect, not talking about parents talking to you crazy. We're not talking about any of those kind of abusive kind of dynamics, but we're just talking about, even if you disagree with me, I'm your mother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so the expectation is I get things a little differently. I get treated a little differently than other people, right?
Absolutely.
So where do we go with that now? Where do y'all see that now?
So let me ask you a question real quick from your like a generational perspective, specifically your generation, right? So I actually agree with that mindset or that concept when especially when it's parental.
Right,
Absolutely, because it's not I don't think it's harmful as some people may look at it as it's more protective than anything.
right.
But I guess my question to you is when that child becomes an adult, shouldn't there be a shift in the dynamic? And if so, if there should be a shift in the dynamic, because you're the only one that can answer that, from your generation, was there a shift in that dynamic or was it still more? Because I think at that point, once you become an adult and that dynamic still stays the same as it was when they were a child, it becomes a
Yeah.
little more controlling, right?
Yeah.
Let me answer that question.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Yep.
There should be a shift
Absolutely.
in the dynamic. However, there still shouldn't be this mutuality and lateralness.
Yeah.
Right? We're not lateral.
Yeah.
We're not the same.
Yeah.
You know, I remember telling my kid, I'm not one of your friends.
Absolutely.
I'm not like there is a hierarchy that should be here. So as your children grow up, how you respond to your children, how you interact with your children has to respect the fact that they are now adults.
Absolutely.
I think the problem that I have with respect in this modern day and the new generations is that there's like this thinking that, well, because I'm grown, we're the same. I'm grown and you're grown. So you're looking at your parents saying, I'm grown just like you are. And it's like, no, you're not, because I still gave birth to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, you might be grown. That's where I go to, y'all. And I know this is where we don't all come together.
It depends on the scenario.
And I do know that some of the audience, but this is
very
I'm gonna give you a
circumstantial,
scenario.
but I do generally agree.
If we're having a discussion, if I'm having a discussion, I have 4 grown children. If I'm having a discussion with my grown children, there's a small chance that I might not be correct. Extremely small. Minuscule. That what I'm saying is not the gospel truth, because most of the time I am right. However, the small chance that I might have gotten it wrong and not be right, my expectation is still that you will respond to me in such a way that honors who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can say, oh my God. Well, let me say it this way. This is the way I would do with my mom. Oh, she's dead wrong. And there was a lot of things my mom said. I was like, she is like dead wrong.
Yeah.
She don't know what she's talking about. I didn't say that to her. I'd be like, I would at first say, well, Mom, I feel this. And if she was adamant that she was right, I'd be like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I'd walk away saying she did wrong.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel the need to prove it in that moment. That's not what happens now.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I just think sometimes maybe in certain relationships it takes a step further where there's still an expectation to follow suit like you would when you were a child.
I agree with that.
You know what I mean?
hear
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
I still had that issue. I just had to get my dad all the way together yesterday.
All the way together.
Yeah, he talking about some, well, why you ain't tell me? And I looked at the phone. I said, well, last time I checked, I do believe I am an adult in her own home, currently driving her own vehicle, and make her own decisions and pay her own bills. And that was not me being disrespectful. Sure. It's just like, when do I need to tell you all my trackable steps?
But I will say, and this is going to defend y'all old heads, right? I will say,
like, I ain't a kid no more. Now, granted, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
I know he cares about my safety.
Yeah.
But my response to that was, I'm just saying, hey, Dad, I just finished booking a trip. I'm just telling you I'm booking a trip. You are like I'm going today or tomorrow.
Right. I will say, though, from their perspective, just an attempt to empathize with them, right? From their perspective, if you raise someone for 18 to 20 years and the dynamic always existed where it was you protecting that individual or you taking care of your child, there's gonna there might be some residual transference even after dynamic shifts, because you can't get out of that 20-year-old, that 20-year persisting concept you had where it's like you have to always protect it. Yeah, so sometimes you do have to indulge because they need that. A little bit.
So
I'm not gonna.
Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to let them have it.
So here's what I'm saying.
He does it to every single thing. It's still you're gonna always.
Well, what
be
does
my
it
baby.
hurt? What does it hurt?
No, it don't hurt
you. Then so here's the thing. my dad, I would have choked before I said those words. I just would have. One thing, he's asking because he's concerned.
Right.
Right. So
Exactly.
and listen, this is where we think differently. So that's why it's a discussion, because there are a lot of millennials out there saying, yeah, I would have said the same thing. Right. And some Xers. And what I'm trying to submit to you is that, is it possible sometimes to just acquiesce, to just swallow on your words of your need to exert yourself, and to remind him that you're an adult, when I'm sure he knows, because he was there when you were conceived. So he knows how old you are. He knows probably how old you are more than he knows how old he is. Is it possible that we can take a step back and just honor the relationship? Maybe not the validity of what they're saying.
Right.
Like I said, we're not always right, but just on the strength of who you are.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this to Zion's point. You are an adult.
Yeah.
And you do have the right to say you're an adult. Until you need said parent, said mother or father. It's amazing how you're not grown then.
Hey, see, now, I love when you said that. See, I knew you was coming with that. See, the premise and purpose of when I call for a parent is for a slim amount of things. Because the thing about me is, I'm going to try it my way first. And if my way don't work, okay, then I'm gonna.
But that's a last resort. That's even. Yeah.
But that's the point.
But still, so if I'm gonna call my dad, I'm gonna call him because I need something around the house, fixed. You know what I'm saying? Because he's very handy.
It's still big. You can't undermine the severity of that.
No. I know. I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm just saying.
But he's supposed to come.
All right. And is
he supposed to charge you?
He can if he need to.
But does he? Do you expect for him to charge you?
Okay, of course not.
No.
To me,
that's my dad.
You know why? Because that's my dad. So he's your dad when you need something and that he can provide.
And saying it's vice versa too. He called me.
But just now.
No, I actually agree with that. To me, there should be a balance though. Like I said, respect the dynamic.
And I do.
There's a balance to everything in life. You can't have an excessive amount of anything.
Right.
Even in relationships.
Indeed.
So respect that person's your parent. And so there is a certain way you'll communicate with them.
Yeah.
There's been times in my own life where I felt like someone was dead wrong, but I was just like, I got you, yes ma'am or yes sir. And then as being an adult, whatever decision you make is whatever decision you make.
Right.
But at least give them the decency of honoring what they have to say.
Yes.
And I do think that you can do that for children as well to a certain degree, especially if their insight is valuable. But to your point, Amber, if it's done excessively to where it's kind of promoting control, then I don't think here and there sometimes it's bad to say, hey, like I got you, Dad, but I'm an adult.
And that's kind of the
sometimes you do have to give them a reminder here and there.
I get it all the time. Every single time I make let's say if I wanted to go to the car lot tomorrow and go purchase a car, you want to know what he's gonna say? Well, baby, why you ain't call me? Because I could have got you the best deal, and I'm pretty sure the deal that you got wasn't gonna be better than mine. And I'm just like,
it's not.
I know, but hey, can I just spread my own wings?
So, Dad,
maybe.
Excuse me, I'm gonna answer it.
I love him to death, though. That's my dog.
Hey, Dad and other dads. Hey, let them go pay a lot more money. Don't even. Yeah, they want to pay more money. Let them pay more money. We're laughing, and this is what I love about this conversation, because you would have to see her. First of all, she's spitting an image of them. Second of all, they are like they have this
like freaking frack.
This really cool relationship. But we're speaking about the concept of respect and how for you guys, the other generations, there seems to be this is me speaking from an ex point. We look at it as disrespect. Now, this is where the generational gap has to be filled, because there have been times when I have popped off or gotten really in my feelings by what I perceive as straight disrespect. Right? But that's filtered through my understanding of what respect is.
Exactly.
Right? So I'm looking at you saying you are straight disrespecting me.
Yeah.
And when you unpeel it and have another conversation and look at the mindset shifts from the different generations, they're not seeing it as disrespect. They're seeing it as sometimes nonconformity. They're seeing it as speaking up. They're seeing it as expressing themselves. Yeah. And they see it as, y'all, I didn't even know this word was going to come up today, but Amber brought it up. Mutuality. Zion brought up adoration. they view this as a need for there to be a mutual exchange between us. I'm not going to say that's wrong. I'm going to say that's not always.
Yeah.
Like I can get with respect the mutuality of respect given the dynamic of the relationship.
Right.
But my question really becomes, is there any time that you think that mutuality should not exist? That they're a police officer, well, we need to be mutual. We're lateral. Nah, I don't advise it.
I mean,
Well,
to a certain degree, like
well,
you're not just because you're a police officer, you're not just gonna talk to me any kind of way because you got a whole
Right.
silver shiny badge.
Well,
Like that's not happening.
And a shiny gun.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make though. So
I mean, yeah.
I didn't say that mutuality always looks the same. I even said a lot of times there will be different levels of different positions.
Right.
To your point. But as far as when I talk about mutuality, and I'll go ahead and reference this from a previous podcast we talked about. Mutuality doesn't always have to be the exact same. The way I view mutuality, it's just whatever I'm putting in, you're putting in. It doesn't have to be the exact same. So, for example, in a parental relationship, what I might be putting in is deep admiration and just, let's just say, respect in general for a parent because they nurtured me my whole life and they cared for me my entire life. In that same sense, their mutuality of our dynamic or our relationship may be, I love my child, I've groomed my child, so I respect their insight and whatever I taught them. So that's how I should view them. So just from my standpoint, mutuality doesn't always have to look the same. It's just two parties coming together and not agreeing necessarily, but just providing something. It doesn't have to, we don't have to provide the exact same thing,
but an
we're
exchange
providing
of some
something
type.
Exactly, a mutual effort. That's the key emphasis for me.
So then here's the question for the two of you. What were you taught? Not what your stance is now. What were you taught about how to show respect growing up? And have you deviated from that?
My mom
Good
always
question.
told me to respect my elders. Okay.
Yep.
And I have
blur that out.
very much deviated from that. Okay. Like it's the furthest from what I believe right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I give respect, especially when it's given back. Like I'm expecting it back. And this is, I don't know the nicest way to put this.
Just say it.
But the old people, the old folk in the world,
I should have gave them more time.
Yes, you should have.
Old heads is y'all turn. We love y'all.
The old heads,
we love y'all.
Just think they can say anything they want.
They really do though,
because they'd have been on this earth at least 21 years.
And they think age
times two.
And they think age is the equivalent of
and the ageism
knowledge.
In this world is like they just think we got peanut brains. Okay, like
no, they do.
You do understand that. For me to be the age I am, I didn't experience a lot of life. Now I don't think I know it all. I believe that's why I still listen to my parents, individuals that are older than me, all of that stuff. My godparents, aunties, uncles. I listen, but that don't mean treat me like I'm a kid, okay? Yeah, and you can just say 100%. Anything you want because you got to look at it. I got kids too, okay? And I do let them voice how they feel, but to them I say I'm still your mama. But you ain't my parent talking to me like that. So no respect elders. No,
So it's not blanketed now. It's if the reciprocity.
Reciprocity, absolutely. Okay. You give what you get, and vice versa.
And
like
that's pretty important.
It is very, very important. Like you can't just be out here talking to people any kind of way, man. Like that ain't cool.
Well, okay, to expand on that.
Ooh, that just hit somewhere different for me.
No, for sure, and I get it because we have to deal in a world with ageism in professional environments and social environments, and even maybe
I think that's why
maybe even in family dynamics. Absolutely. So I get that, but so to expand on that, I was always told to respect my elders, right? The expectation, the way I was expected to respect elders, I have deviated that from a little bit, but I'm going to explain, right? So I don't care who they are. If someone's older than me, I respect their status, right? So if they have advice that I just know is bad advice, and I'll explain that. I will
How do you know if it's bad?
I'll explain it. I'll always hear them out. Now, if you're my age saying that stuff, yo, dog, I ain't gonna lie. I don't want to hear it. Respectfully. But because I respect your age and your status, you're an OG, I'll hear what you have to say, but that don't mean I'll conform to your beliefs. And I want to say that I was there was an expectation of respecting elders where you were expected to listen to what they say, but also do what they say. And I just think that's a flawed concept. So for me, I would say I deviated from that original blueprint to a degree. So that specific example, because I love providing examples every time I say anything. So for me, I was in a barbershop not too long ago. And if you a brother or just a man in general, depending how you grew up, barbershop talk's a little different. And so there's this old saying ain't nothing wrong with a little window shopping. I don't agree with that at all. That doesn't line with my character nor my beliefs. But old heads, and we love y'all, because they're old heads, they think that they have more wisdom in every aspect of life because they're older than you. And I think, again, that's just a misconception, right? So I will hear what you have to say on why there's nothing wrong with window shopping and all this, and I'll let you go through all of that and say, and I'll say this, to each their own.
That part right there.
So that's my way.
So you guys bring up some,
and they hate to be wrong.
You bring up some really good stuff
that
I really do like. Is that so? And this is the lesson even for us as Xers. Absolutely, I think you earn the right for that dynamic to honor who you are, right? I don't think age necessarily makes you wise. I don't think age necessarily means you deserve respect. There's some old fools out there.
Tell them again.
They are.
Can you say one?
Yeah, and that really don't give respect. And I hear both of your points that sometimes we can abuse that status as you got to listen to me. Yep. And you're absolutely right. What did I learn? I'll answer that question. Was that not only did you respect your elders, you did what they said. It wasn't just, there was no option to not comply. Like you heard it, you listened, and respect was measured by whether or not you did it. Absolutely. Like it was like, my mom would say, if my mom said you didn't respect me, it was that she had an expectation that did not happen. Right. And so we had a problem. Okay. We had a whole problem. As a kid, I love my mommy. I do. My mom would say some stuff that y'all can remember going to school and repeating some of the stuff that my mama said, the things that she had explained about biological functionings and things in life. It's almost like any of y'all seen Waterboy, Bobby Boucher? And he was like, Mama said. But Mama said, and they was like, Mama wrong. Okay, I love my mom. We from the country. So anytime you didn't have a real explanation for something, they would come up with an explanation for something.
For sure.
I don't know where it came from, but when you're a young kid, you have this belief in what you hear the grown-ups say. Yeah. Y'all, on a couple of occasions, I went into school and raised my hand when a question was asked about something. And I repeated what I had heard. And everybody started laughing. Cause Mama, it was wrong information. She good heart. The information was wrong. Specifically, one of them was that every time you went to sleep, you died.
Oh, wait.
And then Jesus touched you with the finger of love and bring you back. Spiritually, I can see where it came from, but honestly, I was in health class, and I said, because every night.
Oh, you said that in health class.
No, I did. I said you die, and the teacher said, "What?" I said, "Every night." I said, "You die." I said, "Then if Jesus don't come with the finger of love."
They're trying to admit you somewhere.
Huh? Listen, I got laughed at. I got laughed at, right? So here was the thing. So then I learned from that experience that sometimes Mama wasn't always right. Mama was right a lot. Yeah. But Mama wasn't always right. And so, but different than now, I would know in my mind, like, oh, she don't know what she's talking about. But I still did whatever she said because that was how respect was defined. Right. I can appreciate now the move toward saying the respect can be demonstrated by at least hearing you out, giving you the respect, because my grandfather used to tell stories, and them stories he'd tell the same stories 100 times. And I'd be like, oh my God, he's going to talk about the man with the guana bag shoestrings. Like, I knew I'm the first black man in Keelan with a car. Like, he had told the story 100 times. But he needed to tell his story. Right. Yeah. And I needed to honor his right to tell the story. Could not deprive him. So I would listen to that story over and over and over again, and I would look surprised in all the same spots. What? And I did that because I know he needed to impart that to me. He needed to feel like he was imparting wisdom. Exactly. So,
I love validation.
But both of you made the good point of, first of all, we don't have to abuse
Mhm.
that position by talking to people any kind of way.
Mhm.
And I know you're right. I'm an Xer. I've had some boomers, and I'm
Mm.
like, hey, you talking to me like my name is Sam.
Mhm.
Like, and it was almost like, and what you gonna do about it? Because I'm old.
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
bit of a superiority complex.
Yes.
That's the big issue.
Yes.
you know?
And they stand firm in it too.
They do.
Like
No, they
now,
do.
listen, it's a little brutal. It's like, dang,
Yeah.
you treat me
They,
like I'm
like
a clown
I said,
or
they
something.
apply that to every aspect of life, and something you can do better than them, or you could give them advice about it, information about it. They find it like it's pointless.
Right.
But then
You
they
know
tell
what
you
I
still
mean?
got Similac on your breath, so you don't know nothing.
Well, or the thing of it too, if we go to the thing of I'll tell you this, being honest as a parent.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need to feel, I need to insert myself because I need to still feel that there's some worth and value.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
Like,
understandable.
it's not, you raise your children, and this is really the catch-22 to the whole thing. You really raise your children with the intention of them being self-sufficient and independent.
Absolutely.
Independent
Yeah.
thinkers, using good judgment and all that. You
Yeah.
raise them to be out of your presence
Right.
so that they can navigate the world without your every instruction, right?
Right.
But when they get older, to your dad's point and all that, because of course I understand him. What is my value now? I recently heard somebody saying, he was actually a comedian, but me and my husband, we were just listening to his special, and it was so funny. But he says, I've moved from the role of a father to advisor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
Which means I may not necessarily show up at your house and do that work for free. Amen.
I mean, I ain't
Because
mad.
that's not what a trusted advisor would do. But I think for us as Xers, it helps us to now define our roles, because it can be really scary when you don't know what your role is in somebody's life that you have
Absolutely.
raised all their life. And now I come to you and and listen, for my children, they are very wise. Like, they are very well adjusted, very smart, very resolute in what they want to do. And you're trying to get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
Like, where can I get in?
Yeah.
So for
I get
me,
it.
respect is just to honor the need for them to babble on. And even if you have to sort of eye roll in the back of your head, oh Lord, there she go. Like, one day that person may not be there.
That's true.
And you would wish they would. I mean, my
Be
dad
able to
would.
babble.
Oh,
Yeah.
my dad passed away during COVID. My dad had commentary on everything, even having a baby. I remember one time I'm having a conversation about pregnancy. I've had 4 kids. And my dad started correcting me. No, what it is. And I'm thinking to myself, man, how many babies have you had?
Right.
Because I didn't know it was possible. But he needed to.
At least he
Insert
knew. At least he
himself.
knew what he was talking about.
He didn't.
Oh, never
He
mind.
was talking about pregnancy.
Okay.
He didn't know.
You speak on something you ain't never
He
experienced.
didn't know what, and he was trying to tell me
maybe,
how to
maybe he
feel.
just been around so long.
That
and
still
saw
don't
the
give
process.
you.
I don't.
That
listen.
still don't give
Spoken
you.
like
I
a
don't know.
man. So
Right.
anyone,
I wouldn't do it.
any of my women
Tell
out
you that
there
now.
know they cringe at the thought that a man would
Talk about
have
grandkids.
commentary
Yeah, no.
into pregnancy or childbirth. You sort of like,
Mm-mm.
in what universe
Yeah,
should
no,
you be
I-
having a conversation with me?
I wouldn't do it. Personally.
I just advise all men, they just need to just stop commenting.
I think that's one good thing about me. I'll say, if I know about something, I'll talk about it. If I don't, I just don't know.
Right.
You won't hear me respond. to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, juicy conversation. I think I'm going to tell you my takeaway. I'll ask you guys to give me your takeaway.
Do you want to do the general definition?
Yes,
Respect?
the
Yeah.
definition,
Oh,
please.
yeah. And I promise y'all, I didn't look this up before, but it's funny.
Oh, Lord.
Oh,
you can
good.
read
I
this.
promise you I didn't. Respect is the deep admiration for someone or something by their abilities, qualities, or achievements, or a polite, considerate, and appreciative attitude towards others.
Of course, that's why you wanted to read it out.
Oh, yeah. Once I saw it, I was like, that's crazy. Because that
Well,
was just my own subjective, like.
So we're talking about respect from the standpoint of the adoration, the mutuality.
Absolutely.
So this conversation is bilateral, because we are talking about being treated with respect, having that mutual adoration, admiration. We don't have to agree,
Right.
but we do have to agree to disagree in a respectful way.
Right.
I hate using the word respect, but that's kind of what we're saying.
Yeah.
It's
right.
hard to define respect without using respect.
It is.
It is.
But then there is another part of it that suggests that we have to honor
Class
class
yeah.
and status
Absolutely.
and positions.
Yes.
We've had, I've had with my behavioral health business a person that was young in a very high position that people had a difficult time respecting the position. They were more focused on how old she was.
Right.
And my thing was, I don't care if she's 2. If her title is this, and on the organizational chart, that title is higher than you, it doesn't matter that you're 60 and that they're 24. That doesn't matter. So we need to understand that there's a bilateral thought. Here's the last thing I'm going to finish out with. What I learned today was that we can have our own definitions of respect. And if we don't consider the generational differences, you can easily feel like you were disrespected. Amber showed it in one way, I showed it in another way, of feeling like, okay, why am I being questioned like I don't have sense? She had every right to feel that way when it's filtered through her definition of respect, right? Looking at the other side, which I'm able to provide a ex perspective, a parent perspective, it's like, same thing with me. I'm looking for total bow down. Like, I mean,
submission.
I mean, yeah, just like if I say something, and I'll say, okay, I'm part of me. It's crazy. I'm saying there is no dialogue here. This is a monologue. I'm going to tell you what I think, and you're going to shake your head and say yes and keep it moving. But when I listen to the 2 brilliant people beside me, I understand that part of what that's doing is not respecting their autonomy, not respecting their right to not be in agreement. I love what Zion said. You can, and then do what you want to do. I promise you, that's exactly what he does. That's exactly what he wants to do. He does. But to say, I hear you. I respect what you're saying. I respect your position. And then generally, I'll make the decision for myself. And that's right.
Yeah.
So, respect. I'm going to throw this last one out here. The concept of disrespect. People are serving time. People are doing life in prison. People are in the cemetery from this whole concept of disrespect. You're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to disrespect. Here's what I'm going to tell you about disrespect. I've said this to my clients for 30 years. I said it's impossible to disrespect me. What? Yeah, let me explain. Disrespect means you have the Latin root, disconnected, remove. You have removed respect from me. I want to know, how is it possible for someone to remove respect from me? You can call me, oh, big head, blankety blank, blank, blank. You didn't disrespect me. Because just because you called me that, I didn't become that because you said it.
That part.
Great point.
I have to then perceive that your words are so powerful that it was able to alter who I am.
Exactly.
Right? We are living and dying, losing relationships, like losing jobs, whatever, on this concept of disrespect. There's one respect that really exists, and that's called self-respect.
Yep.
That's the only respect that matters, is that I have self-respect. I love them. I always feel respected. It's not required. If they decided tomorrow they did not want to render respect, I have self-respect. My respect is not predicated on anything external of me.
That's a great point, because how you view yourself is what you're going to be.
Exactly.
You look at yourself in the mirror every day.
Exactly.
Who cares about what others got to say?
Exactly. So, respect. RESP. Okay. So, y'all, let's keep this conversation brewing. It's been a really great conversation.
Absolutely.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Listen, we got to keep asking questions. We got to listen to understand. And then we have to acknowledge. This episode shows that. We've got to acknowledge the unique challenges that each generation faces. And then we got to look for common ground, because trust me, it's there. So, until next time, keep on sipping and keep on talking. Tune in next week for another thought-provoking and entertaining and respectful conversation that bridges the generational gap, one cup at a time. Take care.